Hi YouTube, how are you doing? And welcome back to yet another video. So today I want to do a little market recap about what's going on because gold hit its all-time high today, and I'm going to break that down and the reasons possible why it could even go as high as 3,000 by the end of the year. Let's break it down. All right guys, well thank you so much for watching today's video. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button to find more content like this because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to gold and silver. But I want to go into kind of what's been going on this whole week, and I want to make my base case as to why I personally believe gold and silver are in a silent bull market. I think they've been in one for the last 5 years, but I want to show you guys some things that I've been seeing lately and why I think it's going to go even higher into the future. Not just because it naturally does that, but I think it's going to go on a tear. Maybe very shortly. I'm not really sure. I'm not, again, guys, I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to predict some ridiculous number like gold to 10,000 by 2030. Like, I don't think I mean, who the heck knows what it's going to do even in 5 years or even in 5 days? I have no idea, but I personally believe when I explain everything that I'm about to cover here, you might be able to make a good argument as to why it's going to be moving up. So I want to talk a little bit about what you're looking at here, and I have a couple of sites I'm going to pull up, but this is from CNBC. I have Yahoo Finance up here. I've got the Wall Street Journal, and I got Bloomberg. And in each single one of these, I don't think there's any discussion about gold hitting its all-time high unless you like really go down and dig through it. I personally don't see it on this site right here. Yahoo Finance does have it right here, but it's in a little tiny section right here. Wall Street Journal, I mean, even on the markets and finance page, I mean, you have to scroll all the way down to here in the commodity section to even see that it hit its all-time high. And Bloomberg, I think it's kind of the same thing. I don't even think I see it on here at all. So what I do see, and there's actually two things. One is everyone is talking about the stock market hit, or the S&P hit the best week of 2024. Everything is great. I mean, you see that, and that's the front cover of CNBC. Yahoo is talking about Nvidia, but you can see that like just stocks hit the best week of the year. Wall Street Journal, kind of there's a little bit different, but even if we go to the main page on Wall Street Journal, you'll see right here stocks rebound for the best week of 2024, and Bloomberg again, Wall Street hitting the best week of the theme here is it's been the best week of 2024. Economy's doing great. The buyers are rushing back in. Everything's going good for the stock market and everything's great. But gold hit an all-time high and you don't hear anything about it. And gold hit a bunch of all-time highs. I think it hit a few all-time highs this year alone. I don't know how many that compares to in the past, but I know they hit a couple all-time highs this year. And even then, no one really kind of talked about it. So I'm going to make my case as to why it's going to be a silent bull run for gold and silver, not just gold, but gold and silver. And I think it's going to do a lot more in the future. And I'm going to explain all that here in just a second. All right, so there's an article from JP Morgan that I found, and it actually covers up a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about in this video. Now, this was made about a month ago, so it's still relevant and it still holds true. But basically, the key, if you read the key takeaways here, they're basically saying that the reason why gold has been doing so well this year is because everyone is expecting the Fed to cut interest rates, the heightened geopolitical issues between Russia, Ukraine, and then now between Israel and possibly Lebanon and Iran. That kind of feeding into it. Everyone's kind of going into the precious metals because it's that safe haven type of asset. But I think what's important and what the point of this video is I'm not trying to make some crazy astronomical prediction about gold, but I think what I'm about to explain to you guys is you're going to see that there are certain things that are about to happen, or if they do happen, it's going to create an environment that is going to be very good for gold. And, even though gold hit its all-time high, I mean, this could still look like I mean, and who knows, maybe in a year or two, 2,500 could look like a good deal. So there's one sentence in this article that I want to point out because it does cover a couple things as to my reasoning why I think it's going to actually create a good environment for gold, is because right here it says traditionally a weaker US dollar and lower US interest rates increase the appeal of non-yielding bullion. So basically when the dollar gets weaker and the interest rates drops, it creates a good environment for gold. And if you look over the last, since 2022, when gold, or not gold, but when the US dollar index was at a high of about 113-ish, it's been dropping ever since. And over the last few years, gold and silver have done really, really well. And so when, you know, that's a case where the dollar is going to keep going down. And I personally believe it's going to get much lower, and it's just going to create a better environment for gold. And if we go into the second point that it covered, which is the Fed interest rates cut, we've been hearing over the last few months potentially that they would do a cut. And now if we look at this page here, this is the Fed Watch CME Group page. It basically it has a projection or an estimate of, or probability, whatever it is you want to call it. It has the probability of what might happen with the interest rates in the next Fed meeting that's going to happen in September. Overwhelmingly, they are predicting a cut, 100% cut at this point. At least for the next few months, they are predicting an easing of interest rates or a cut of interest rates, which is going to make a good environment for gold. As a result, the inflation war that the Fed was so gung-ho about fixing is going to be lost for nothing, because it's going to go back up, because when you cut interest rates, you're going to drive up inflation again. So I'm going to pull up the inflation rate. I mean, you can see what happened. They've been raising interest rates since 2021, and it's brought inflation down to now 2.9%. Well, when you start cutting again, you're going to drive this back up. And I'm going to show you guys another thing that's going to make it a little more worrisome for me, at least how I'm perceiving it. I think that it's going to be I think we'll go back to this 9% interest rate, or I mean, who knows what we're going to go to, but it could go to 9% again. But typically when I look at the interest rates, like on this page, I take this number and double it. So let's call it 3. I really think the inflation rate is about 6%. That's just what it is, because basically what happened is the CPI index, when it measures what causes inflation, they stripped away a lot of things over the last 30 years that when we measure it to inflation like we did back in the 70s, it's not the same things. And like, I forget what they took out. They took out a bunch. I think they stripped out the cost of like housing. I think they stripped out the cost of, or they redefined the term of housing, the way that they collect data on how much people pay for housing. I think they did one on food, or I forget what they did, but I'll have to double check it. But basically they removed a bunch of stuff that doesn't track it the same. So it's not, so they basically they're fudging the numbers to make it look better than it actually is. So that's why I say I double it when I see 2.9%, it's really probably more like 6%. But again, if the interest rates get cut and this next thing that I'm about to cover happens as well, you're going to see inflation go up. It's going to, and what happens when inflation goes up? People go into gold and silver. Let's go into this article that I found, because when I was going through all of these pages, when I was looking for all of the gold discussions that I could never find, I kept seeing something like this. Harris calls for tax credit, and her economic plan is this. She wants to but she wants to offer a $6,000 new child credit for families with newborns, and then $25,000 for first-time home buyers. Well, while that looks good on paper for people, that money's got to come from somewhere. You can't just create $6,000 per family. I mean, how many people are going to start having families when they start hearing that there's a $6,000 tax credit attached to it? You're going to have people making more babies. This $25,000 boost for first-time home buyers, I don't know if that'll even be enough to cover the cost if you're going to keep pushing inflation, because what happens when they push inflation, the good assets, the real assets like real estate, like gold and silver, they're going to go up, and they're going to become even more out of reach. That $25,000 probably won't even do anything. So, but again, that $25,000 is going to be printed. That $6,000 tax credit is going to be printed out of thin air, and it's just going to be given to people. And what's going to happen is just going to drive the inflation price even higher. So that's why I think gold and silver if you're a smart investor and you're reading these economic signals, if you're smart enough to recognize how this is all working and what's potentially going to happen, then yeah, gold could go to 3,000 by the end of the year. I mean, it all depends on what happens. I mean, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm seeing more of an incentive now to keep putting even more money into gold and silver, because it's going to come to a point where it's not going to be sustainable, and it's not, I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but I just don't think the dollar's going to last. I mean, you can't keep doing this. But I mean, that's just my rant. I mean, that's what I've been seeing in the market. I think gold hitting its all-time high is great. I mean, I'm still extremely optimistic about it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think gold's gonna go higher? Do you think it's gonna go lower? Let me know what you guys think. That's gonna be it for today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye, guys.